Tell your friends. Tell your friends about Hooks and Ladders, but also about songstudio.ca. You can get all kinds of information about songwriting, tips, and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, like, follow, and subscribe. That's what we need. That's what you need.
Welcome to another episode of Hooks and Ladders, where we talk to songwriters about songwriting. My name is Alistair Bradley.
And I'm Blair Packham.
And we are joined today by a Canadian songwriter who has moved to Los Angeles. Please welcome Andrea Wasse to Hooks and Ladders.
Yay!
There she is.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you 6 weeks from the last time we spoke.
The weather looks remarkably the same.
Very
I know,
similar.
and I'm wearing the same outfit. I like to keep things, consistent.
That's
Good
right.
continuity. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And the world is changing. Yeah.
Yeah, change is hard. Change is difficult.
Yeah. Change is very difficult.
So you're a songwriter who, at quite a young age, you moved from London, Ontario to Los Angeles to pursue, an even deeper music career than you could achieve in London, Ontario. And one of the things that you found when you got to Los Angeles was that it's a really fun party place to hang out. And we've talked about this before. That kind of got in the way of being the creative songwriter, music professional that you had wanted to be. What can you tell us about your journey through, your introduction to Los Angeles, and then, hitting a point where you decided, oh, maybe I've got to do something different here?
Yeah. I mean, as I'm 11 years sober, so I haven't touched a drop of alcohol in that many years, more than that now. But like my relationship with alcohol, like I was a shy kid and I'm still relatively shy. But being a shy kid, like my mom would tell people that I was in a band and they'd be like, Andrea, what? Because their only experience with me was I would, cling to my mother's leg because hiding behind people. But for me, starting a band, whatever, like I started drinking as well. And for me, it was like that magical elixir that made everything possible. So I wasn't nervous on stage and I could write with people that I found intimidating. And, like having the glass of wine, I think like is almost like that story, and I think it was like Stevie Nicks or something, but they'd have writing wine and, it's kind of like romanticized. And so I definitely subscribed to that, I always had this relationship with alcohol where it freed me to say the things that I wanted to say or be on stage. And we'd do like these writing camps. I think there was one that Blair, were you at that weird one that was like
at Mist Haven?
Mist Haven, yes, Mist Haven. So that one, even it was like, I think it was dry, like there was no alcohol. I'm like, Let's go get booze, and like Lights was there just, huddled away with her guitar. And like, she's had this crazy successful career, and I'm like, let's drink, let's be creative and party. But, so anyway, flash forward. But yeah, so it was always very closely tied. It was enmeshed. It was alcohol and creation.
Right.
And so for me, like I basically got into a little bit of trouble with that because like I was dating another person that I was making music with, and we were both like pretty crazy alcoholics. We'd start drinking at 2 in the afternoon every day and like have artists come write with us. And it just like, we'd have like a bottle of wine and then like 2 bottles in, we'd be fighting and it would be like the worst thing ever. And there was a moment where like I had a police officer come to the door and like I grew up, my mom was in the orchestra. Like I grew up very like prim and proper, right? And then all of a sudden I've got this police officer at my door because of someone complaining about the noise and doing a wellness check because it sounded like I was having a hard time. And I had that white light moment where I'm like, oh, this is not my life. Like, this is not what I saw for myself. And I stopped drinking. I went to AA and I did that thing, but, it was scary because I knew that I needed to do that for my life. But I was really, really scared about how that would affect my music. And I was scared about how that would affect my ability to be on stage and to perform. And, honestly, like, it was like, okay, I have to save my life. These other things, like, they will happen. And I had to try to have faith in that. But like, I was really, really scared. I was scared. And it took a minute to actually like want to go and be vulnerable in the studio and be in a vulnerable space where I'm, writing lyrics and sharing my soul with people without that blanket, that security blanket. So, like, as far as like writing went, like, it took me a minute. And this is funny because like I would always like just scribble, like I would fill these notebooks with things, and then in sobriety I looked back at a few of these notebooks. I'm like, these are terrible lyrics. These are really, really bad. Like I yes, the lyrics are flowing, but they were not great. A lot of crazy baby, those epic rhymes. But yeah, like it was very closely tied. And I remember hearing like, people dealing with their stage fright, like Sia, she had the wigs, right? I'm like, okay, what's my thing going to be? Like, what can I do as a costume to wear to hide myself? It's like always this costume thing. And so even with that, like I'm like, okay, well, I don't feel comfortable being a front person on stage. Maybe if I support friends, like if I sing backup or play keyboards or something, then I can be like spotlight adjacent, like I can get up on stage, but no one's really paying attention to me. So I can kind of like work this out, and that actually, it worked really well until, I'd be up there and like 5 shows deep with these people and I'd be like, I'm a lead singer. I have the ego of the lead singer. I can't be doing the shadow work, I guess. But yeah, separating the two, that took some time, and it took a lot of faith that like, I didn't really need alcohol to create music. And that was just a crutch I was using.
Now, what kind of supports did you have in place? Did you have, close friends that understood and were there for you? Did you have, was your management team or your publisher, were they aware of what was going on and helping you through it? Or did you have to do a lot of this on your own?
I did a lot of it on my own, but like I found that's a funny thing. Like a lot of people knew that I was an alcoholic, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to discover it on your own. You have to admit it. Like even with Miss Haven, though, one of my publishers are like, okay, you're going to go to this weird resort and go right with people. And I think I was living in LA at this point too. I'm like, I called my manager. I'm like, okay, is Sony sending me to rehab? Like what is happening? Or is EMI at the time? Like I really did not believe that it was a writing camp actually. Like this is finally happening, So anyway, it was a writing camp. I wrote some fun stuff with Hill. I can never pronounce her last name. I should, because I've known her since she was like 11.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, Hill Kurkutis.
Kurkutis. The first female. What did she win?
She won a Juno for Best Engineer.
Yep. Yeah. I'm so proud of that kid.
Yeah,
I've known her since she was like a geeky tween.
That was a hell of a weekend. I remember there was some weird stuff that went on there.
For context, it was this weird resort that they rented it out for the songwriting collaboration. And I think they also used that space for like weird couples retreats. And so it definitely had a vibe to it. So we were all like, this is weird. Let's write songs.
Yeah, it was. There was definitely a couple sexuality thing going on, and that not at the weekend, but it was the vibe overhanging in the air, and it was. Yeah, it was odd.
A strange. Right. So many talented, amazing people there, but we were like, what is this place? But initially I thought they were sending me to rehab. But as far as like the support, like, you meet people along the way. Like my mom is she's got a couple years more than I do. But I remember going home to London and like partying with my friends and waking up to Abe Campbell's next to my bed. I'm like, oh, okay. But you're ready when you're ready. But fortunately, like I'd met enough people along the way that were sober, and it kind of helped me out. And a lot of sober musicians. And that's one of the great things about LA. It's like, there's Scientology, there's AA, but, there's a lot of sober musicians. And so even seeing that, like, I was surprised. I'm like, oh, you're one of me. And like, it makes sense because we are sensitive people, you know? And I remember, you know, being a kid, being a sensitive kid and like being really, really ashamed at how sensitive I was. And now it's like, no, wait, that's a gift. You know, if we can feel all the things and then express it, you know, you can write this thing that's so personal to you. And then some kid in Sweden's like, this song really helped me get through this moment where I wanted to kill myself. You know, it's like, oh, I tapped into that thing, you know, and as songwriters, we've got that gift. Like, no matter how good you think you are, if you're like even trying to express these emotions that you have through music, like that right there is a special gift. So yes, I saw a lot of other sensitive souls like myself who were also trying to not drink alcohol because they'd maybe gotten in a little bit of trouble with it.
Right.
So I wasn't too surprised, but I was like, oh, you know, and you're like giddily like sharing the news with your friends and you're like, oh, it's an anonymous program. Oh yes. But there are definitely people where I was like, oh, we're in the right place because I knew them back in the day too.
That's sorry. It's funny that you're holding up a mug that says, what does it say? Beer and freedom.
Well, it's a play on, it was like BBQ, beer and freedom for America, but I changed it. My boyfriend has this band called Big Black Delta.
Oh, okay.
So it's BBB, beer and freedom.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's good.
And then on the other side, it's a heavy set Spider-Man. So.
That's good.
I thought I was seeing Spider-Man.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
Well, like playing tricks on you with my mugs.
Once again, though, you are so candid and so great with sharing your information and your views, and we're really grateful. And it's always great to talk with you. And I'm really glad that we're able to do this. So thanks again for joining us again on Hooks and Ladders.
Anytime.